Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another Breakfast Club here on Fantasy Football Scout. Going to go through any kind of last-minute decisions, panic, reveal our teams, transfers, and all that stuff. And this morning, I'm joined by Chris. How are you?
I'm all right, actually. I'm a little bit tired. I've had my son's had a couple of his friends over as part of his birthday celebration, so that's why I've got the background because my office space is an absolute state. They've been playing Fortnite and spilling popcorn everywhere for about till 2 a.m. So yeah, a little bit tired, but excited about the day. I'm an Everton fan as well, so I'm looking forward to the first kickoff today. I'm pretty for first as usual at the start of the season. I'm quite excited. I'm sure it'll all turn into sand by the end of the 90. But yeah,
I think there's good reason to be excited. I think a lot of people said that it was Spurs being rubbish, but I think a lot of that first game was Everton being good as well. So we'll probably talk about Everton in a bit, actually. Just before we jump into it, please do hit that subscribe button. We're, I think, less than 500 people away now from 50k, which is the target for the start. Well, for the end of the season, I think. So to get it this early would be great. And obviously hit that like button if you haven't already as well. Let's jump straight into the team reveals. We'll do yours first. I'll save mine because I've made a couple of transfers. And you did really well in Gameweek 1, right? What was your score?
89 points.
And you're top of the mods and cons league.
Top of the mods and cons. We could end it there. Come on, COVID. Let's end it. No, don't do that. No, yeah, no. I'm pretty good usually. I've got a pretty good record starting strong, and then I get a bit carried away and do the maverick decisions. But yeah, so I'm keeping my. So I mean, I went Salah captain obviously first week, and that did a lot of the work for me. I had Aubameyang, Wilson did all right. Justin Digne was my other sort of, I guess, differential, I think, which delivered the points. So very happy with that. Obviously keeping him in. So I'm going to keep the side. I'm planning to keep the side as it is. I think.
Which players?
The last yesterday night and this morning, sort of wavering over some crazy maverick moves that I shouldn't make. But that's always a thing, isn't it? If I leave it. Never make transfers now before the deadline is my mantra, which is what I'll try not to break today.
Who are you thinking of, though?
With this.
Who are you thinking of? Because you said that to me before that you were thinking of bringing in some players.
I really wanted. I was wanting a bit more Everton coverage. I really want United. I want Fernandes, but I can't do that hit. So I kind of think I just can't quite justify getting players out really in most cases. I think I want to give Son another go, see if Spurs up their game with the threat of new transfers on positions coming in. Obviously, got to keep Salah, got to keep Aubameyang. I was actually thinking Werner didn't impress me as much as impressed everyone else. I was underwhelmed by the lack of a hat trick in his first match, I think. So I was actually thinking of a crazy Werner to DCL at one point. That was one option. I was then also thinking, can I squeeze in Greenwood somewhere in the midfield? Because I do want United, but I think ultimately I'm going to wait and see because it's the same with City. The stuff I want from United, the stuff I want from City, but let's give them a game and see how they're all line up and make a better decision. Obviously, is it going to be United of start of last season or United at the end of the season? That's what we need to see, I guess.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk about Man United and Man City actually in a bit more detail in a minute. But yeah, I think they're obviously. I mean, Man City. I think people are happy to wait another game because of Wolves, but Man United in particular is. I'm a little bit worried. I must admit, I woke up quite calm about not having them. I was panicking a bit midweek, and I'm a little bit calmer about not owning any of them. But you've taken a couple of price falls. Vinagre's fallen in price 0.1 million, and Son as well. Did that worry you at all?
Vinagre I kind of expected, but I need to make bigger moves. I mean, Vinagre, it's going to be a bit annoying. It's annoying, but I hardly didn't expect it. It was a punt. Heavy played, great. He didn't. You were very smart in doubling up on Wolves. I had saves in one of my earlier drafts, but I ended up with Vinagre in the end. Yeah, it's annoying. Son, I'm a bit surprised by. I know we're going to talk about that a bit later. I was a bit surprised by Son actually. I think he was quite unlucky not to score, to be honest, and he looked one of the more lively of the Spurs players. So. I don't know if that's a reaction to Bale or a reaction to how poor Spurs may have been recently, or what. I was a little bit, or maybe Son was a make weight for a United player for a lot of people in their first week. I think that might be more the reality. But yeah, I'm a bit surprised about Son, a bit annoyed, taking a bit, but then swings and roundabouts. Digne's up, Justin's up. Yeah, I'm not going to get too panicked about that just yet.
Yeah, I think you're right about Son. I think there's a bit of a mix. I think some people genuinely were looking at the Rashford move. I know people that held back 0.5 million to make the move if they didn't feel the Son was looking
Yes.
good. But there is a bit of knee jerking going on as well. I don't know. It's very easy to say it when you don't own the player to like advise or give the opinion that someone should take the price for. But I just think the fixtures are so good still for Spurs. And maybe the Gareth Bale thing, which isn't confirmed yet, which again we're going to talk about in a bit, might lift the club a little bit. I just think everyone was saying how high up the pitch Kyle Walker-Peters was for Southampton. Well, that's who Son is up against now. Like Zaha was through on goal so many times,
Yeah.
and Son is a much better finisher. So if he can get into those positions,
Yeah, if he
good.
blanks again, or Spurs just look woeful again, then he's most likely to be straight. To be honest, he's most likely to be out anyway. But yeah, it's difficult because I've got such dross on my bench. I mean, I went with a strong. I spent the money in midfield, and I've not got a lot of room to manoeuvre really. No offense to Brighton players. I mean, but I made a mistake as well the first week. I was supposed to have Mitchell, and for some reason I was messing around and ended up with Stevens. It's like, why have I got two? Well, something went wrong there, and I ended up with two Brighton players, which I wasn't really going for. But yeah, I'm quite happy. I mean, to be honest, TAA was the other person I was looking at getting rid of. I know that seems mad.
That is a huge knee jerk,
It's
surely.
a huge move. But I've just got a feeling in my waters. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think obviously he's going to get assists. I don't. Liverpool didn't look convincing against Leeds for me. I mean, Leeds maybe are brilliant, and that's just the thing. Maybe, but I don't know. I'm not sure they looked as tight as they have been. I don't know if they're not going to be squeaking out those 1-0s that they did to a lot of the start of last season. Then suddenly that's a lot of points sort of disappearing there for a lot of money invested. And I don't see him keeping a clean sheet against Chelsea. Well, maybe they'll get a goal, and maybe TA will be involved there. But yeah, I don't know. It would have been a maverick move, which is why I've not done it. But those are the kind of things I was looking at. But yeah,
Yeah,
I'm pretty happy. I think Dean will get points. I think Justin's got a good chance of points. Aubameyang, captain, obviously. I don't think you can get anywhere else this week, really. Yeah, I'm happy with Wilson up front. Adams is his last chance saloon, really. I mean, I think, I think he was quite close, actually, wasn't he, a couple of times?
yeah, should
Both
have
Adams and
scored.
Mings could have scored, yeah. But so, we'll run it the second week and see how we do, and then we'll probably make a few more wholesale changes. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting you say about Leeds because obviously we're working off very small sample sizes for this season, but Liverpool were the second best for expected goals conceded. So although they conceded 3, their expected goals conceded was only 0.32. Only Arsenal did better, and to be fair, they were playing Fulham, so that was probably a little bit of an easier task. Let me.
Yours.
Yeah, well, just really quickly before we show you mine, someone wanted you to elaborate on the Charlie Taylor pick. I mean, surely that's just Burnley. They keep clean sheets, right? That's what they do.
Yeah, well, so it's a Burnley defence. I mean, when I was looking through, I wanted a bit of Burnley. Burnley be really good to me last season. I couldn't get, didn't have Pope in. Obviously, didn't play first week. I had Peters actually a lot of chunk of last season. He did very well for me. I think I got swayed into Taylor by some from some scoutism rather than, but yeah, and I think yeah, obviously Vardy looked great, but I think Burnley will be tight defensively. I don't see that. I don't see another massive haul for Vardy. We'll see, I guess. But yeah, I don't know.
It's a good
We'll see.
long-term pick
I'm
anyway.
just a big fan of Burnley defence. I
Yeah.
think they've done really well for me in the past. So I don't see I think that could be quite a tight game, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything to say that Burnley aren't going to be good again. Let's look at my team. So I've not shown. Sometimes we show our teams beforehand. I've taken a hit, right? So I'll tell you now. I've taken out. I won't bring the team up just yet. I've taken out Vinagre and Pulisic. So I've avoided the price drops. I did that on Thursday night actually because they were looking to drop on Friday and they only dropped overnight, like last night. So I've avoided the price drops. So here's my team, which will come up for you in a second. So I'm now on triple Everton. I have triple Everton in game week 2, and I feel like that's my season over.
I mean, as an Everton fan, I applaud it. I applaud it. That's yeah, wow. That's that's brave.
Let me just.
You had DCL already.
Exactly.
You did well for your first match.
Exactly. So it's not.
And I got Digne, so I was looking at DCL. I think James Rodriguez. It's not. It's a yeah. It's not a great. That's not a bad pick at all. I mean, he looked very dangerous. He looked like he was creating a lot. Yeah, I don't know. it's a good fixture to give it a go. I don't think that's crazy.
Let me justify it a sec, right? So let me justify it to everyone that's going to be laughing in the chat. I'm sure I can already see a few laughing emojis. You got triple Everton. So I already had Calvert-Lewin, right? So it's not like I've knee-jerked him in after a goal. I already thought he might do well with the new midfield behind him. And okay, I think he only had 1 or 2 shots and maybe got a bit lucky with the goal. But there was other chances in there as well. So I already had him. And Vinagre was a mistake. Well, not a mistake. It was a risk I took that ended up being a mistake. And Pulisic, I feel like I got a little bit screwed over by Lampard because he made it sound like he was, worst case scenario, would be on the bench for the first game. And then my hope was that he'd then be playing against Liverpool. Now it felt, or before the press conference, it felt like best case scenario was to be on the bench for game week 2. So it kind of flipped a little bit. So I decided to get rid of him. And Lucas Digne was already someone that I was thinking about pre-season to play for at the back. So I've kind of just, the 12-pointer probably helped a bit, but I've kind of just fixed that. And then it's like Pulisic, who's not going to play, versus James Rodriguez, who's got West Brom, Crystal Palace, Brighton. The only bad thing is now, not necessarily bad things, it gives me options, but I've got money spread around quite a bit, so I could play 4-4-2 or 4-3-3, but that means I'm benching St Maximin at 5.5 or Adams at 6, which I don't mind doing, but long term, I've got to take that money out because I want to, I will want to spend it elsewhere. But once I either drop St Maximin to a 4.5 midfielder or Adams to a 4.5 forward, then I have enough money to do Rodriguez basically back to Pulisic at some point because that's the move.
Do you have anything in the bank? Do you have anything in the bank? Is that it?
That's it now. I've spent it all. So yeah, nothing in the bank. But obviously, like everyone else, I'm considering the Aubameyang to De Bruyne move next week. Maybe Sterling. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I will come and say I'm sure Sterling is in my head. I think yeah. I mean, to be honest, 3 games. I mean, if you're going to give James Rodriguez a chance, 3 games before anybody susses him out in a, if he's not going to get anything out of these 3 games, then you're fine to move on and say, well, worth a punt. That's not a bad punt at all. I did consider it. I think Digne's should be pretty nailed on now. I mean, because he's taking some set pieces. He's getting forward a lot, and Everton just have got now midfield, central midfield. So we are missing. We are a bit centre back. Could be a bit shaky because we've got a few injuries there. Holgate out and Braithwaite was out, and so it's Keane and Minnow and some of the youngsters. And actually, Dean played and got pushed into a more central position for in the Carabao. Carabao still? What's it called? I don't know. The
Carabao Cup, yeah.
The Carabao Cup. So but yeah, I think defensive Everton is not a bad pick. Actually, in my fan team pick, I just did another fan team this morning because I think it's too good not to do. And I got Pickford in, which is the only time I'm ever going to have Pickford.
He's 4.5 in that, isn't he?
Yeah, it was like I thought, well, it's worth it. It's worth
For my fan team side, I put in Rodriguez and Richarlison, so I'm all over Everton. The thing for me was I put in Calvert-Lewin as I hope that midfield will do good for him because he had good numbers last year. And now I've seen it, I'm kind of thinking it will. And I think Alan, like James Rodriguez is obviously like the flair pick that everyone loved seeing, but Alan was so good. And Decore, we know how good he is for Watford as well. And it wasn't just that they've come in, it's that they looked like they've been playing together for a while. And I know Spurs...
it's incredible. They actually, that doesn't happen very often. They just look like it just worked, right? I mean, it might all fall apart this week. It could be, they didn't play in the midweek. They had a bit of a change around and got Gylfi in and other players, but I think that's sensible. I fancy as an Everton fan, I fancy Richarlison to do something in the few games. He was just a bit, his radar was just a bit off in that first match, but he is because he can assist a lot more than DCL as well. So as a midfielder, I would have definitely had him. It's when he'd been moved to forward, it's kind of changed the thinking a little bit, and obviously DCL is just so much, it's just cheaper, so it's an easier way in, but I do think if you've got the money and you're thinking Everton, I think Richarlison's probably could be a cheeky differential the next few weeks.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think I think something
we're sure. My thing is, I got burnt by United defence last. I was stuck with Wan-Bissaka for the last sort of 10 games or something, 8 or 9 games. You're confident about Shaw, right? You talked about this last week, I think.
Confident enough. Just really, really quickly on Everton. I think some of it's psychological. Like if I had Lucas Digne and Calvert-Lewin, I don't think people would mind. But because I've got that third, suddenly it's awful. But at 7.5 million, I don't really know who the other options are right now. Ali, people are getting rid of him. Pulisic's injured. Havertz looked bad at 8.5. I know Mark's bought in Grealish, who I actually have in fan team as well, but I don't know. I just didn't fancy him in FPL, so that's why I've gone for the triple. But we'll leave that now for sure. For sure.
For sure.
I mean, I'm fairly confident. There is talk that there was kind of rumours being spread last night on Twitter from fairly legit sources that Man United had agreed a deal with Tellez, who's left back as well.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that as well, yeah.
Now, that's not agreed with Porto, though. That's only agreed with the player, apparently.
Yeah.
So who knows about that? We know what Man United are like in the transfer market when it comes to actually getting the deals over the line. It could be another couple of years. So I think Shaw is first choice. I don't know about the Tellez thing. It's hard to know. But when we were linked with different left back, the guy that Spurs have signed, who I'm not going to try and pronounce now. Yeah, that guy. Apparently he was offered to Man United. They weren't necessarily looking. So I don't know if I'm that worried that they're massively trying to replace Shaw, because I think Solskjaer likes him. And at the end of last season, bearing in mind Shaw is seen as an injury-prone player, and to be fair, he did get injured. But up until that point, Solskjaer just played him every game. There was no rotation.
How much is he? How much is Shaw?
5. He's 5.
That's pretty good.
That's why I've got him, basically. It's just to cover Man United clean sheets, because Man United's defence is actually very good. And I just didn't have
you've got a nice balanced team there, to be honest. I know your problem is you've got too many big players to shift about. I mean, I suppose you could move Werner to someone else. You could do, you say, Aubameyang to one of the City players. I'm
pretty happy with it. Like next week,
you've actually got on the bench. You've got players you're going to want to play. Like, I think in the right size, you'll bring on it next week. And Mitchell, when Palace have got an okay fixture, you're happy to play him. So I think you've actually got players on the bench you're happy to bring in, right? So it's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, next week I'll play Sice, because Wolves' defence is just so good, and so are the fixtures. And I'll bench St Maximin away to Spurs probably. And just play Adams versus Burnley. So yeah, I've got options, but long term I want to take some money out of either the defence, St Maximin or Adams. But I'll worry about that next week when I panic and wildcard probably. At that point I can make as many changes as I want. Let's just quickly talk about Man United, because we've both touched on them a little bit. So what I did is this morning I went through the amount of penalties because we'll talk about Bruno Fernandes in a sec, but I went through the amount of penalties that Man United have had in the last 5 seasons, just to show the kind of variance that can happen. Now, obviously, we're in a different situation now because VAR is a thing, and obviously refs go into the pitch side cameras, and obviously Man United have got a different attack now that's probably more capable of winning penalties. But last year was 14, so that's a new record. The year before was 12, so it's not like it's a new thing us getting penalties. I think, the cliche that Man United always get penalties. But the years before that, it was 3, 4, and 3. So quite a big drop. I think most people would have expected it to be kind of like at least 7, 8, 9. So there is quite a bit of variance, and I've put up some stats as well. This is from Gameweek 30 to 38 last year. The reason I've picked that is because that's when Pogba was fit and Bruno Fernandes was in the team. So it's not necessarily Bruno's first game, but he only played like 2 or 3 before this, I think. So if you look at like expected goals, Bruno's on 2.26, so he's not actually that much lower than Martial, Rashford. And then when you add in the penalties, he's suddenly like right up there. So is the penalties why you're kind of thinking of Bruno Fernandes? Is it just because obviously we saw Vardy and Salah first 2 games?
Yeah,
right?
I don't know. I didn't own him for much last. I think it's a bit of a carryover. I didn't own him for much last season. I was sitting there going, "Oh, I had Martial and Rashford for a lot of the season, and when we're at the end of the season anyway, and Wan-Bissaka, as I said, I kind of got caught in the Bissaka trap. But I just wanted him. I got him the last 1 or 2 games, and I just wanted him all season. He just looks such a class player. He just knits them together. I would have Martial moving up front and the price rise has just taken him away from it a bit. I just think he will get a lot of chances, but he's that sort of player that can just disappear and really, really kind of troll you, as they say in FPL world. And Rashford, I don't know either. I'm actually, it'd be for me, it would either be Fernandes or Greenwood that I'm looking for. And I know no stats. Greenwood, we'll see. That's what I want to see how much he's playing. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, looking at those, I should be all over Rashford. Really, that should be.
That's what's the most interesting for me is even when you include. So the way it's set up, I've got the tab that's green is non-penalty expected goals, but the expected goal involvement on the right includes penalties as well. And Bruno Fernandes, even with all those penalties, is only just ahead of Rashford.
Rashford's a mid now, right? So it's,
exactly, yeah. So if the penalties drop down, this is the thing, you just don't know. So sometimes it's worth just getting penalty takers and hoping they have a big season or they're giving
just
a lot.
checking difference. It's a million. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's a million
million
difference.
difference.
And Rashford's numbers were pretty good. Obviously, the only thing is, again, these are all very small sample sizes. This is just the end of the season. We don't know who's
Yeah.
going to be. Like Bruno Fernandes was kind of run into the ground quite a bit, whereas now he's going to be a bit more fresher. Potentially, obviously, Man United's pre-season's a bit all over the place, and they did play quite late. So, yeah, it'd be interesting one to see. I mean, I'm certainly not against Bruno Fernandes. I just find it hard to fit him in at 10.5. And if I'd had an extra point, because I had 0.5 in the bank before I made my transfer, if I'd had an extra 0.5, I would have probably skipped James and just gone straight to Rashford from Pulisic. But I just couldn't. I couldn't make it work. So yeah, I like him. So yeah, I mean,
I don't know if that means the FPL priced many. Wasn't when you're looking at the first lineup, wasn't that many bargains really. You weren't going, oh god, that guy's massive under the price. So it's kind of maybe that means they priced it right. I don't know, but yeah. But okay, no. Well, I'm gonna watch the first match. I'm just hoping. Unlike you, I'll be hoping they don't score a hat. From hoping that the Palace defense holds up a bit and maybe they get maybe it's one or 2-0 and you can get your cleanie and then we'll I'll know who to go with the next week.
yeah,
It's going to be like I don't know if I can get both United and City. That's why I'm going to have 2 transfers. I can, I might have to do a bit more surgery than that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult. Like people were chatting last week about doing Salah to Bruno, and suddenly that changed when Salah went and got a hat trick. But yeah, it is difficult to fit them all in. I think this week, what I'd really like to see if I was scouting Man United players is Van der Beek on the pitch at the same time as Bruno and Pogba, just to see if that's going to happen, and if it does, where they all kind of play and fit in. So I think there's a lot to be kind of gleaned.
Well, that's the
from
other thing.
this
Yeah,
match.
well, the new signings fit in. How's that going to? Yeah, exactly. That's always a bit of an unknown until you've seen the first game. But yeah, cool.
Could be punished this week. Let's go other side of Manchester. So the big news that came out last night, which I was not expecting, because often we obviously do the team news live stream, and obviously Neil gets his article and stuff out, but there is sometimes embargoed quotes, especially from certain teams, Man City being one of them. And Aguero is apparently out for 1 to 2 months. Now that is a big, in football terms, that's a huge gap, like difference between 1 and 2 months. But what do you make of this? Is it, when you saw this, is there any particular players that kind of stuck out for you that you?
It makes Sterling. It just seemed to make Sterling essential for me. The way that it depends again how they line up. But if Sterling was playing, ended up playing sort of centre forward. Really, a lot of the end was very central, very forward. I think we'll see how it lines up. I mean, Jesus again is obviously going to come back to the fore. I think Sterling for me, especially as it's the same price as KDB now, I can't really look beyond him if I'm going to go City. It feels like sacrilege to not go. I've got to have KDB, which was always my strategy. It always was going to be like, how do I get KDB and how do I get KDB? But he's obviously going to be more, consistent for assists and whatever. But as it stands, like Sterling, especially as he finished pretty strongly last season. He just looks hard to avoid, really. The only caveat to that, I think, and obviously not for this week or the next week, but is City. I've got money, and they haven't really dipped into it much yet, and I won't be over surprised if suddenly there's a new striker arriving at the ground, because Aguero's not going to be there forever either, so they are going to have to kind of replace at some point. So I wouldn't be amazed if that accelerates a move for a striker, to be honest, which could mix it all up again.
Yeah, I think. I don't think the thing with Aguero is I actually said this a few years ago on the Scoutcast that I thought he was a bit of a nostalgia pick. He was getting older, and that was absolutely ridiculous. Probably one of the worst things I've ever said on a video, because he just went on and absolutely smashed it, and still was last year when he plays. Like, he's still incredible, but he's not getting any younger, and unfortunately, it happens to everybody when you get a bit older. You can't. Maybe these injuries will happen more and more. We don't know, but. Yeah, I do think there's a chance they go into the market. I did have a look at Jesus' minutes last year, and pretty much from when Aguero was injured to the last game, he played every single game. The only thing is, he was a bit of a kind of 60-minute to 65-minute man, then he was off. And at those times, Sterling would come central. And we actually did a matchday Scoutcast where Sterling and Jesus were both playing, but actually Jesus was on the left, which was really weird. So that could happen again. For me, I think Jesus now becomes a huge option at 9.5, because although he's not the same, like Aguero's got like the killer instinct for getting a goal, Jesus just doesn't have that. But because he's playing as the striker for Man City, he gets plenty of chances anyway. So I do really like him at 9.5. It's just, again, it's a bit like Man United. How do you fit him in? I could easily do Werner to Jesus in game week 3, but Werner plays West Brom, doesn't he?
No, it's just tricky. I think Jesus will definitely come into my thinking But yeah, just my brain's like Sterling. But again, it's a big price, so you're gonna have to. Yeah, it's not gonna be easy to do unless you're straight out with one of the Aubameyang and Salah really. So
The thing for me, so I'm so tempted to go for Sterling because when you look at like we know how good he is for scoring goals, and when it comes to open play, like he's much more likely to score a goal than De Bruyne is. And obviously, De Bruyne is going to rack up the assists, but we know they're not worth anywhere near the same amount of points, right? It's almost double for a goal. But with Aguero out, De Bruyne is almost certainly going to be on penalties, going back to penalties again. And I feel like De Bruyne got so many assists last year, and I'm not expecting him to necessarily do that again because it was, a ridiculous number. But it's still going to be high. He's still going to get some goals from open play too because he always does. And then you add penalties on top. And in the back of my mind, I'm just thinking, what if Man City get a 14 penalty? Because it's not like they've got the players to win those penalties as well. Like Rashford and Martial are quick. So are Sterling and Mahrez, tricky in and around the box. So right now, I'm going De Bruyne actually rather than Sterling.
Okay.
But
I'm not going over yet, so we'll see. We'll see how the game week goes, right? I apologise for this light on my face. Like I'm just seeing a little bit now. It's my son's been monkeying around my blinds. Don't let your kids in your office. Is my tip. But yeah, what else we got up? What else we got in the news, Andy?
Yeah, let's finish on Gareth Bale, who. I mean, he hasn't officially signed yet. It's not been confirmed by the club. I don't think they've even confirmed the left back either. But he does look like he's coming to Spurs. What's your initial thoughts about him as an option this year? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it. Again, talking nostalgia picks. Let's get Rooney back in. Let's get Ronaldo in. But no, I think Spurs need something. I think it could be just what they need. Really, they need a bit of a totem. Like Kane's, all the pressure's on Kane at the moment. Ali's not really performing. It looks like Mourinho doesn't really fancy him. I wouldn't be amazed to see him shipped out this window, especially as they like to keep the finances tight. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but I'm the money they're going to be spending. I think they could happen, especially if they go for Ings as well, which is obviously another rumour. I think it. I think it could be good for him. He wants to play clearly. I mean, not just golf. So, and he's a talented player. When he was playing for Madrid, he was decent. He's been very good for kind of holding Wales when he was playing for Wales. We'll see how hungry he is, and how much he fancies getting clattered, at a wet night in Burnley. But I think it could be very interesting. How long it takes him to get fit and up to speed is going to be the question, right? You're not going to get in week one because, even if he's signed this week, he's not going to play for a couple of weeks, right? So, but yeah, I think it could be very interesting. I mean, he's that sort of player that can just, create a lot of assists, get a few cracking free kicks. It depends what price he comes in at, right? If FPL throw us a bone and make him, 9 to 9.5 million or something, then maybe there'll be a lot of love for that. But if it comes in over 10, it might be a little bit harder to pull him in, I think.
Yeah, he's one of those players that even as a non-Spurs fan, you can't help but be excited about. Like when he was in the league, he was just incredible, especially as an FPL player as well. I think he got 249 points one season, so he's right up there with the elite players that we've had. Whether or not he can do it again, I don't know. We saw because I think he's 31 now as well. So he's not coming in as this fresh young player anymore. But obviously he's very experienced. And I did have a quick look at his points, or not his points returns, but his goal returns and stuff for Real Madrid. So last season not great, and we do know he's got a bit of a bad injury record, right? That's one of the issues he's had over there. But last year, 16 games, only 2 goals, 2 assists. One thing I didn't check is how many minutes he played in those games. So that might be a bit of a reason. 29 games the season before, 8 goals, 4 assists, so 12 returns in 29. And the season before was pretty decent. So we're going back to 2017-18 now. So 26 games, 16 goals, 3 assists. So 19 returns in 26. So he can still do it potentially. But we're talking a couple of years ago now till he really had kind of elite numbers.
And it's also a different league though. You've got to think the Spanish league. It's a style of football is very different. I mean, I think Harry Kane will be happy. I mean, surely that small delivery, that small service for him. That's what he's thinking. I mean, it might make Kane more if Bale starts starting and provide another line in. That might make Kane more interesting as well.
I wonder if it actually make Kane worse, just because. I feel like Bale might come in a bit cheaper for one. I think he should be. I don't think he should be any more than 10, just because he's not necessarily done it for a couple of years, but you can't price him too low in case he does go back to those numbers, right? So I think no less than Son for sure. But I actually feel like Son and Bale are actually quite greedy players. So I think if they're anywhere in and around the box, I feel like that's a shot waiting to happen. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's all speculation. I did see a rumor that he's also injured maybe for the next month as well. So this could all be a moot point. He could come in and not be available.
Sell some shirts, be an expensive injury room. But but look at Rodriguez. Came in at James Rodriguez has pretty good caliber. Pedigree in the same sort of time as not maybe last season, but he's coming at a very favourable price point. Okay, it's Everton as we've said before, but yeah, maybe Bale will come in at a favourable price. If you're getting that, maybe 8.5, 9. I mean, I don't know. You think he could be that based on what?
I think he has to be at least 9 because that's what Son started off.
Yeah, I guess he's going to have to be a similar sort of similar range to Son. Or, we'll see how Son does this week, I guess. Yeah, all right, yeah. I have to look at those. You reminded me of all these price drops. I'm going to have to rethink my transfer strategy for 3 probably a little bit. I have to sanity check that.
I mean, transfers
I'm quite surprised by Son. I still was trying to process that. I completely expected Vinagre, but the Son thing I was slightly surprised by that.
Yeah, I just think it's a bit of knee-jerking plus the Man United factor. But I think transfers like Bale is why I'm quite happy to still have my my wild card because I think there could be massive changes coming up. All right, we'll leave it there. Let me just quickly remind you of the teams before we shoot off. So this is Chris's team. No transfers made. 89 points. Top of the Fantasy Football Scout Mods and Cons League. I'm a bit like you. I'm 5th. I always start off okay in the last couple of seasons and then it all goes downhill from there. So I'm hoping this season's a little bit different. I might even change my password one more time just to be sure. And then this is my team. So I've taken a hit and I've gone for the genius move of bringing in Luca Dean and Rodriguez for triple Everton, which next week everyone will be on anyway. So I'm just ahead of the curve.
If that comes off, you're going to look like a genius. So
first game, I don't buy into this first game rubbish. I don't care when my players play, but it could be a bad afternoon if 2:30 and they've all blanked and West Brom have won 1-0. But we'll see. If you haven't already, by the way, hit that subscribe button. We're so close to 50k now. Help us get there by the start of next week. Yeah, and then hit that like button if you haven't already. And Chris, thanks for joining me this morning.
Also, this I promise is almost certainly the very last.
Oh yeah, of course.
The members being at 1750. It is basically just down to admin sorting it out now. It was supposed to go out by now, but if you haven't got a membership and you want to buy one, save yourself a couple of quid and get it today. It almost certainly will go up tomorrow.
So that's the Fantasy Football Scout membership. If you want to get that,
that's Fantasy Football Scout,
there's a link in the description.
Hall of Fame world number one. He didn't go triple Everton, I think.
Well, no, that's why he does so well. But yeah, if you want to check that out, there's a link in the description below. It'll take you straight through to it. Like Chris said, it's currently £17.50, but it will go up this week to £20. So make sure you get in that, or $19.99. But get in for that before that happens. Otherwise, thanks very much, Chris. Thanks everyone for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we will catch you again for another video on Monday.
See your deadline stream in a minute, Andy.